After my daughter said, "Even worms won't want you in the grave," I discovered my amazing purpose. Jake sat at the dinner table, a plate of cold meatloaf in front of him, the silence thicker than the gravy that had congealed hours earlier. One look at Lily's face told him everything. She was scanning the room like a hawk, finding every fault, every flaw in him. The disappointment in her eyes felt like a wrecking ball. "You just sit there, waiting for life to hand you a break," she snapped, her voice dripping with bitterness. That's when the words struck like a thunderclap. "Even worms want you in the grave." The air turned electric, making Jake's chest tighten. A sliver of light seemed to dim permanently inside him. How had he let things get this far? Once, he was her hero, the dad who could fix anything, who made her laugh, who showed her the world with wonder. Now? He was a failure, a statistic. He was the very definition of disappointment. Feeling emptied, he got up and wandered aimlessly into the quiet streets of his small town. The sky was painted in soft twilight hues, but Jake couldn't see beauty. All he felt was a crushing weight. People he used to know, the old factory crew, the veterans, called out to him, some offering a handshake or a nod of solidarity. In their eyes, he saw reflections of their own struggles, the shared burden of lost jobs and fading dreams. But there was also camaraderie there, a spark of unspoken hope. He realized he wasn't alone, and this flicker ignited something deep within him. As he walked past the old hardware store, he remembered the dusty garage back home, where his father's woodworking tools lay hidden beneath the dust of neglect. The thought made his pulse quicken, a passion once alive, now dormant, begging to be revived. Perhaps he could use those tools to build something, not just furniture, but a new beginning. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Fueled by a newfound energy, Jake joined a local initiative supporting unemployed workers in launching small businesses. It felt like gaining a piece of himself back, nurturing a flame long extinguished. Yet, just as he began this journey, disaster struck. A wealthy competitor emerged in town. Ricky Lancaster, a slick businessman who saw Jake's venture as a threat. With tactics as dirty as the mud on his shoes, Ricky set out to sabotage Jake's efforts, whispering poison into the ears of potential customers. Facing this onslaught was like climbing uphill in a snowstorm. But instead of fading, Jake straightened his back. The town rallied behind him. Friends he hadn't leaned on in years came by with encouragement and ideas. Their support felt like a lifeline, weaving together the threads of community he had frayed. Yet the struggle was far from over. As he stood on the brink of a choice, the fight for his business or abandoning the dream everything he held dear teetered on the edge. Lily's face came to mind, her frustration etched in sharp lines. If he failed now, he feared he'd lose her for good. Riker's tactics were low, but Jake had something he didn't, the love and determination of a father willing to do whatever it takes. Would he stand tall, or would the weight of his past push him over the edge? The answer loomed, heavy with uncertainty, as Jake faced a defining moment in his life, one that could reshape everything. Jake felt adrenaline coursing through him as he stood on the sidewalk, staring into the window of a familiar old workshop. Dust motes danced in the light, and for the first time in years, he felt a flicker of inspiration fluttering inside him. This place had once been his sanctuary, filled with the earthy scent of sawdust and the sounds of whirring tools. It was a realm where he transformed raw materials into cherished memories. He wanted that feeling back, but how to reclaim it amidst this chaos? He turned and marched back home, the resolve building within him like spring flooding a dry creek bed. Once inside, the sight of the neglected garage filled him with both sadness and hope. The tools, resting under layers of dust, seemed to whisper a call to action. With determination fueling him, he rolled up his sleeves and got to work. The creaking of the garage door felt like it was welcoming him back to a long-forgotten world. The first night, he started with simple repairs: a broken chair, a shelf leaning precariously to one side. Each new creation brought a small victory and rekindled the artist within. He felt lighter, as if shedding the weight of his failures with every saw cut and hammer strike. But it wasn't just the wood that was transforming, he was, too. The warmth of purpose embraced him like a long-lost friend. Lily was skeptical at first. She didn't get it. She watched him with furrowed brows, unsure where this sudden burst of energy was leading. "Dad, this isn't going to fix everything," she warned one evening, her voice wavering between concern and hope. "I get that," he replied softly, "but I have to try, for the both of us." As weeks passed, excitement spread in the community. Jake's small presence in the market began to intertwine with others eager to chase their dreams. Word spread not just about his handcrafted furniture but about his willingness to listen and help others. And unlikely friendships formed, small talks turning into long nights spent sharing stories of loss, hope, and the next steps forward. But just as he began to feel a sense of stability, Ricky struck again. This time, he played dirty, spreading rumors that Jake's work was subpar, that he was just another down-on-his-luck loser grasping at straws. The taunts were loud and echoing, and Jake could feel them creeping in around the edges of his positivity. Was it enough to last? Could he genuinely turn this moment into something bigger? The pressure made him anxious. Each customer who turned away felt like a nail in his vision. He sat at his workbench, staring at the unfinished project, a rocking chair that was supposed to symbolize new beginnings. Instead, it felt like a haunting reminder of everything he feared to lose again. But as despair bubbled up, he paused. He could almost hear Lily's sharp words cutting through the fog, "Even worms want you in the grave." Did that mean he just let go? No. He would not go quietly. He had support, community, the tools, and, most importantly, a fierce determination born from love, a love that would not let him sink. With sudden clarity, he picked up his tools and got back to work, focused, determined, unstoppable. He stitched his doubts into the furniture, crafting pieces that didn't just hold weight but carried stories, resilience, and just when he thought he had everything in place, a challenge approached. A televised entrepreneurship contest was coming to town, promising funding and visibility. Every doubt, every fear, rose to the surface. Could he take that leap? Could he bare his heart, his craft, and let Lily's words echo that he was worth it? As he rounded the final corner of his project, he lifted his head to the horizon, where possibilities awaited. He knew he had a choice to make, a challenge that could either break him or launch him toward the future he dreamed for both himself and Lily. Would he step into the spotlight and fight for what he had built, or succumb to the weight of the past? The answer hung in the air, a heavy hush that spoke of all his fears and hopes as he prepared for the next chapter of his life. Jake took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the fading sun on his back as he sat on the edge of his workbench. The weight of his decision pressed against his chest like the wood he shaped into art. Should he really enter the contest? The lights, the cameras, the scrutiny, each thought created a knot in his stomach. Yet, the image of Lily flashed in his mind, her fierce spirit, her unwavering hope. She believed in him. Did she really think he was worth the risk? He focused on the rocking chair, its unfinished grain reflecting his turmoil. It was more than just wood, it was a representation of rebirth, of looking forward despite the shadows of doubt. As he ran his fingers over the rough edges, he imagined the comfort it would offer, the moments it would cradle mothers soothing babies, friends sharing laughter. Hope surged through him, and he realized he could either hide behind the fear that gripped him or allow that fear to reshape him into something greater. At that moment, he grabbed a chisel and carved deeper into the wood, a physical manifestation of his resolve. Each strike echoed a reminder of his journey, the struggles he faced. He could either back down like Ricky wanted him to or rise and chase after his dreams. Determined, he made a list of what he needed for the contest. A portfolio showcasing his work, a pitch that told his story, and of course, a little bit of fairy dust. Well, maybe not fairy dust, but the magic of belief that had been ignited in him again. He thought about the late-night brainstorming sessions with Lily, the laughter shared, and how they built an understanding that dreams were worth fighting for. As dusk settled over the horizon, the garage transformed into a sanctuary again, filled with the sounds of chiseling and hammering. It felt almost like a living entity, breathing alongside him, pulsing with renewed energy from the community he had so eagerly embraced. He could picture the expressions on their faces when they learned he had taken the plunge. Would they rally around him? Could his vulnerability invite support, or would it leave him exposed? Days turned into a flurry of work, and as his portfolio slowly began to take shape, so did a bond with those who had become part of his journey. Each friend who stopped by, carrying homemade cookies or just a word of encouragement, reminded him of the heart and soul that pulsed around him. Then the day arrived for him to showcase his work. The contest was buzzing with excitement, and Jake could feel the energy thrumming in the air. He wore the same shirt he had donned for Lily's graduation 7 years ago, a reminder of the dreams he had once carried. Standing behind his carefully crafted pieces, he found himself confronted with both excitement and fear. But as he gazed into the sea of people, he caught sight of Lily, her smile beaming with pride. Her eyes sparkled with belief, and in that moment, he felt every ounce of doubt wash away. The curtain was about to rise, the spotlight on him, and he couldn't let fear extinguish this light again. Just as he stepped forward to face the judges, Ricky appeared in the back and whispered mockingly. But Jake felt an unexpected strength swell within him. He'd been through worse. The past had forged him, but it wouldn't define him. Time to show them who I am, he thought, clenching his hands into fists at his sides. As he opened his mouth to speak, he thought of all the people who believed in him. In that moment, he wasn't just a man, he was their voice, their dreams, their hope. Would his voice carry far enough, or would the echoes of the past return to haunt him? As he faced the judges, a new fear crept in, but so did an unwavering belief in himself that he couldn't ignore. Jake stood in front of the judges, the weight of expectation pressing against his shoulders like a heavy cloak. The room felt alive, the air hummed with anticipation, and for a moment, everything else faded away. His heart raced as he scanned the faces before him. Would they understand the passion woven into every piece he had crafted? He took a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment. The first few words spilled from his lips, his voice steady yet tinged with emotion. Hello, my name is Jake, and today I'm sharing stories through wood. He could see the judges leaning forward, their interest piqued, and that flicker of hope ignited inside him once more. As Jake spoke, he lost himself in the stories behind his creations, the rocking chair that symbolized a mother's love, the intricate shelves that held memories and dreams, the little pieces of heart he poured into each joint and curve. He painted vivid pictures with his words, drawing everyone into the world he built in his garage. His hands moved expressively, illustrating each point, and as he gestured, he could feel the energy in the room shift. But behind the excitement, Ricky's sneer loomed like a shadow. Jake fought the urge to glance back at him. He refused to let that negativity seep into his moment. Instead, he focused on Lily, her unwavering gaze filled with pride and encouragement. As he wrapped up his pitch, Jake could feel the swell of emotions inside him, fear giving way to exhilaration. He had opened up, and it felt liberating. He had taken the risk. And for the first time, sharing his journey felt like stepping into the light instead of the darkness. The judges exchanged glances, and for a heartbeat, time seemed to stand still. Then, one of them, an older man with twinkling eyes, smiled warmly. Thank you, Jake. You brought us into your world today, and your passion shines through. Jake's chest swelled with pride, but even as he felt victory creeping in, he was aware of the reality surrounding him. The contest wasn't won yet, this was just the first step. Questions followed, they wanted to know about his creative process, his inspirations. Each inquiry propelled him further into his narrative. Jake was no longer just a contestant, he was a storyteller, a creator breathing life into his aspirations. But as the judges continued to ask questions, Ricky's voice slithered through the back of his mind. You don't really think you belong here, do you? It echoed, now faint but persistent, trying to tether him back to his doubts. With each query he answered, he fought against that voice. You can't shake me, he whispered inside, a soft yet fierce declaration. Finally, the judges wrapped up, thanking him for sharing his journey. As he stepped away, the crowd buzzed with conversation. Patterns of admiration and excitement filled the air, yet uncertainty jolted through him. Had he done enough? Would his story resonate, or would it fade away like dust? As he made his way through the crowd, a sense of anticipation washed over him. He sought out Lily, needing to see that spark of approval. When he found her, she threw her arms around him, and Jake could feel the warmth of her belief igniting everything within him. "It was incredible," she exclaimed, her eyes dancing with pride. "You were so real. I could feel every word." But in the back of his mind, the whispers lingered, asking if this truly meant he was enough. Would the judges appreciate the passion, or was it mere folly? As the results drew closer, time seemed to stretch. The quiet tension in the room turned electric. Jake squeezed Lily's hand, needing her presence. Was he brave enough to face what lay ahead? He couldn't just wait for the outcome, he had to confront whatever was coming next. Yet, would courage prevail in the face of lingering fears, or would the past claw back to remind him of his worthlessness? Jake stood with his heart pounding, the murmurs of the crowd swirling around him like a storm. The air felt thick, electric with anticipation. For a moment, he closed his eyes, blocking out their faces. He didn't need to see them to know they were there, waiting. Will I be enough? The question floated in the depths of his mind, heavy and unsettling. The judge's words still echoed in his ears, their encouragement mingling with the insidious whispers from Ricky. Just breathe, he told himself. Lily squeezed his hand tighter as she stayed close, her warmth an anchor amidst chaos. You've already won, you know that? She whispered, a small smile tugging at her lips, but he could sense her own tension brimming just below the surface. Yeah, but what if? Jake couldn't finish the thought. What if they didn't see him? What if he was still just a kid from the garage, and nothing more? Suddenly, the announcer's voice cut through his spiraling thoughts. Judging is complete. Let us welcome our contestants back to the stage, as we reveal the winners. The crowd began to gather at the edge of the platform, eyes shining with excitement or worry. Jake took a deep breath. This is it, he thought. The moment that could define everything. Lily let go of his hand, nudging him forward. You can do this. One more time. Just be you. As they shuffled back to the stage, Jake's legs felt heavy, as if weighted down by invisible chains. He forced himself to breathe, remembering the stories he had shared. The love, the heart, the would it all danced vividly in his mind. Would that be enough? The announcer, with the air of someone holding a treasure in his hands, smiled broadly. First, we want to commend all contestants for their creativity. Every story shared today was unique and heartfelt. Jake felt the lift in the room, the audience clapped celebrating each other's journeys. And now, he continued, the judges have concluded their deliberation on who will take home the title of Creative Artisan. Jake's palms grew sweaty. He wiped them on his jeans, stealing a glance at Lily, who was watching him intently, her eyes wide and hopeful. As a runner-up, we have Jill, the announcer said. The cheers erupted, but Jake barely heard them over the pounding of his heart. One name down, he thought. Just one more. Now for the winner, who receives the title of Creative Artisan and a grant to support their passion for woodworking. The winner is Jake's stomach twisted. He could hardly stand. His mind raced through possibilities. What if it was someone else? Jake. The word shot clear, slicing through the noise. The stadium erupted and Jake froze, his breath hitching. Did he hear right? He blinked as the crowd roared around him, drowning out his doubts. There was Ricky, glowering in disbelief, while Lily leapt from her spot, a radiant smile beaming as she pulled him into a tight embrace. You did it. You did it. She shouted, tears brimming in her eyes. Jake was still reeling, the reality settling in, but he felt buoyed by her exuberance. Had he truly found his place? As he stepped forward to accept his award, he turned around, scanning the cheering crowd. Hope surged through him, a reminder that maybe, just maybe, he was enough. But as he walked further into the spotlight, a familiar voice clutched at him. It had become more than a whisper. It was Ricky, loud and biting. This is just a fluke, Jake. It won't last. Jake's head spun, anger flaring inside him. Was this victory just a momentary triumph? He couldn't let the shadow of doubt taint his light anymore. The moment of recognition demanded everything from him, a moment that finally felt right. Yet outside, uncertainty gnawed at him. Would he be able to hold on to this joy, or would the darkness return? As he stood there, confronted by the weight of his fears and the thrill of victory, he had to ask himself, could he write his new story, free from the chains of worry? And could he share that journey with those who still believed in him above all else? The stage lights felt brighter now, blinding in their brilliance. Jake stood at the center, still grasping the trophy, but all he could hear was the distant echo of Ricky's words clawing at him. Doubt settled like a fog in his mind, suffocating the joy that had just soared through him moments before. The cheers from the crowd faded, replaced by the sound of his own heartbeat, pounding violently against his ribs. Lily's tight grip on his arm brought him back, her eyes sparkling with pride. "You did it, Jake," she cried, dancing on her toes. But even her enthusiasm felt like a fragile thread balancing on the edge of his uncertainty. What did this victory even mean if he didn't believe it? What if tomorrow he woke up, and the world saw him once again as that kid from the garage, desperately trying to carve his dreams out of wood? He glanced back at the audience, their faces a blur of joy and excitement. For every person celebrating him, there was Ricky's scorn lurking just beneath the surface. "It's just a fluke," Jake whispered to himself, allowing doubt to weave into his thoughts. "Hey!" Lily's voice pierced through the crowd noise, firm yet gentle. She cupped his face in her hands, forcing him to meet her gaze. "Listen to me. It doesn't matter what Ricky says. This is your moment. You're more than just some kid. You've got talent and heart. Own it." At that moment, something inside Jake flickered. Maybe she was right. Maybe his victory wasn't solely his, not just for him to hold on to and worry over. It was about everything that led to this point, the hours spent in the garage, the failures, the struggles, and the relationships that had formed along the way. He stepped forward, grinning at the crowd. They had gathered here not just to cheer for him, but to share in the journey, to celebrate creativity, passion, and perseverance. The warmth of their collective spirit enveloped him. Perhaps this wasn't just a fleeting moment after all. "Thank you," Jake shouted, his voice rising above the noise, filled with growing conviction. I want to thank everyone who believed in me. This isn't just mine, it's ours." The crowd erupted again, cheers echoing, carrying him higher, lifting him from the shadows of doubt. As he held the trophy aloft, the weight suddenly felt lighter. In that moment, he knew he could channel his worries into something meaningful. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about inspiring others, about showing them that overcoming fear was possible, that vulnerability could turn into strength. But as he soaked in the moment, a deeper unease crept in. Victory might be present, but what about the future? Would this hope shimmer bright, or would the doubts return like unwanted shadows? Jake's heart raced, excitement battling against his fears. It was time to take the next step beyond this stage, to truly learn what it meant to be a creative artisan. But what awaited him once he left this moment? Would he be able to keep that spark alive? As the lights dimmed and the crowd began to disperse, he felt a mix of exhilaration and dread settle within him. The journey was just beginning, but the path ahead loomed uncertain. Could he harness this moment into a lasting legacy, or would it slip away like the last light of a sunset? The questions hung in the air, inviting exploration, urging him forward. Jake stepped off the stage, heart still racing, the warmth of the crowd seeping into his skin. Each clap and cheer echoed in his mind, but the doubts remained, gnawing at the edges of his excitement. As he walked through the dimly lit backstage corridor, he felt 1,000 eyes still on him, pressing heavy expectations against his back. Lily trailed closely behind, her bright smile slowly dimming as she read his uncertain expression. "Jake, take a breath. You did something amazing," she said, enthusiasm fighting through her worry. But doubt clogged his throat, leaving him momentarily speechless. "I know, but," he trailed off, rubbing the back of his neck as he pondered Ricky's disdainful smirk. Would that negativity follow him in every step? "Jake." Lily's voice lifted with urgency. What you did out there, it matters. You need to believe it. It's about so much more than just winning. He could feel her sincerity, yet shadows danced just outside the edges of his thoughts. What would it take to truly shake those shadows off? Before he could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed from behind. It was Ms. Espinosa, the event coordinator, her arms open wide and her face beaming in genuine admiration. Jake. You were phenomenal. The audience loved every second. Suddenly, he was engulfed in a hug that felt warm and reassuring, reminding him of all the support he had. Thank you, he murmured, finding it hard to sustain eye contact as he felt the weight of expectation settle again, this time visibly heavier. Just then, a flicker of movement caught his eye. A figure lingered near the entrance, watching him. Ricky. Jake's heart sank. He tried to focus on the cheers echoing in his mind, but reality crashed in, filling the space with Ricky's sneer. Maybe he'd come to remind Jake that this moment was destined to be short-lived. Lily must have sensed Jake's tension, hitting a high note in her voice. How about we celebrate? There's a diner down the street that serves the best milkshakes. It was an attempt to distract, and he appreciated it. Yet as Jake glanced once more to the entrance, Ricky held his gaze like a predator sizing up its prey. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was half of the battle yet to come, the battle for his own belief. Once outside, he took a deep breath, the cool air nipping at his cheeks. Lily, I don't think anything will change tomorrow. What if I wake up and nothing feels different? Her eyes softened. No one said it would be easy. But you have a choice. Every day is a chance to prove them wrong, to prove it to yourself. Jake looked down. He felt the tight grip of the trophy in his hand, almost like a reminder of his own strength, despite the swirling fears. But what if tomorrow didn't just bring change, it brought responsibility? What if that overwhelming sense of obligation led him back into doubt? After a moment, he asked, what if I can't keep this energy? What if I fail everyone? The question hung heavy between them, breaking through the joy. Lily reached out, placing her hand on his shoulder. Then you learn. You grow. Just like you always have, Jake. As they began to walk toward the diner, the promise of milkshakes ahead, his heart felt just a bit steadier. But the shadows lingered. In every step, he battled a little voice whispering, "You're still that kid from the garage." And maybe, he muttered, "That's okay." But as the diner loomed closer, a new thought prickled at his mind. What if this was just the beginning? The sweeter the victory, the sharper the risk of losing it. Then another challenge dawned. Could he step into tomorrow with courage, carrying the hopes of those who believed in him? The distant hum of the diner faded as uncertain excitement filled the air. Jake pushed the door open, ready to find out what lay ahead. Would he step into the future as the man he hoped to be, or let the anticipation swallow him whole? The warm glow of the diner welcomed Jake and Lily as they stepped inside. The familiar scent of burgers frying and sweet milkshake swirling enveloped him, momentarily pushing away the shadows dancing in his mind. The chatter of patrons mixed with the soft jingle of the bell above the door, creating a cozy comfort that eased his tension. Lily slid onto a bright red vinyl booth, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "See? I told you this place is perfect," she said, signaling to the waitress. Her energy seemed boundless, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside Jake. As they perused the menu, Jake felt the weight of the trophy in his pocket, a tangible reminder of his performance. What if I can't live up to this? He finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. The uncertainty clawed at him again, unraveling the moment. Jake. Lily leaned forward, her demeanor softening. You're not defined by one performance. What you did today is just a step. You're still growing. He gave a half-hearted nod, unsure if those words could truly settle the chaos within. It wasn't just the performance that weighed on him, it was the fear of what came next. Expectations were the heaviest. After ordering, Jake's gaze drifted to the diner's walls, adorned with photographs of the town's best memories. Families, friends, moments frozen in time. A pang of envy hit him. Would anyone ever capture a photo of him that mattered? What are you thinking? Lily asked, breaking his reverie. Just all those pictures on the wall. They're full of joy and celebration. What if I can't keep that up? Her smile faltered slightly, but only for a moment. We all feel that way sometimes. It's not about always being brilliant. It's about the journey. You can't have light without a little shadow. Jake pondered that. It was true, every achievement came with its own weight. But his past haunted him, whispering doubts about his worth. Would he ever feel light? The waitress returned with their milkshakes, tall and frosty, dripping with promise. They clinked glasses, and Lily's laughter rang out, brightening the mood. To new beginnings, right? He forced a grin, but the taste of his shake was muted by unshed fears. It was in moments like these that he wished he could silence the echoes of his own mind. Slurping the sweet shake did help, if only a little. He watched as Lily animatedly spoke about her own struggles, her words a balm to his troubles. She defaced her own shadows. Somehow, she managed to stay in the light. You know, she said, catching his eye, you may still feel like that kid from the garage, but you've grown so much. Don't let the past bind you. Use it to fuel you. Something shifted inside him. The shadows began to yield, perhaps just for a moment. Could he genuinely accept where he came from? Their conversation flowed like the milkshakes, rich and layered, pulling Jake from the edge of doubt. But just as he felt a crack in the clouds, his phone buzzed violently on the table. He glanced down at the screen, his heart dropping. It was a message from Ricky. Did you really think you could keep that up? Tomorrow is a whole different game. The weight of the world settled back around him, thicker than before. Lily peered at him, concern etching her features. Jake, you okay? No. I mean, yes. He inhaled sharply, pushing through the sudden cold wash of panic. Don't let him get to you. You're above that. You've got this. But did he? As the delicious shake turned bitter in his thoughts, he began to worry about what this meant for tomorrow. Could he find a way to prove himself, or would Ricky's words linger, festering doubt back into his mind like poison? Outside the diner, the night was vibrant, but Jake felt the encroaching dark again, pulling him back to a place he desperately wanted to leave behind. Clenching his fists, he knew a decision had to be made, to either rise to the challenge or allow the shadows to win. Tomorrow, he murmured, staring into the milkshake glass, it's all on me. And with those words, the future loomed larger than ever. Who would Jake be when the day finally broke? The thought sent a chill racing down his spine as he prepared to face the unknown once again. The night stretched on, heavy with Jake's thoughts as he and Lily finished their milkshakes. Though the diner buzzed with life, his mind swirled in a tempest of anxiety and self-doubt. Each laugh and cheer from nearby tables felt like echoes of a joy that was just out of reach. He wiped his hands on his jeans, a nervous habit he hadn't shaken off. Jake, Lily said carefully, her voice breaking through his spiraling thoughts. Want to go for a walk? I think some fresh air would do you good. He hesitated but then nodded. A walk might help clear the overload in his head. They slipped out of the diner, the cool night air wrapping around them like a comforting blanket. The stars twinkled above, offering distant light that felt both comforting and far away. Walking down the familiar streets, Jake listened as Lily shared her dreams of traveling, of seeing the world beyond the little town. Her eyes lit up with each new destination she mentioned, and for a while, he allowed himself to get lost in her excitement. But what about you, Jake? She asked, glancing at him with genuine curiosity. What's your dream? The question caught him off guard. For so long, he buried his dreams under layers of fear and expectation. What if he spoke them aloud and they remained unrealized? But as he looked into her encouraging eyes, something shifted. I've always wanted to make music that can touch people. Like make a song that feels like home, he admitted softly, his heart rate spiking with sudden vulnerability. Lily smiled, her expression filled with admiration. That sounds beautiful. You have every right to chase that, you know. As they walked, he felt lighter, the weight of his anxiety slowly lifting with each step. Maybe he could let himself desire more than just survival. But then, the message from Ricky flared back into his thoughts, a stubborn shadow. What if I mess up tomorrow? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. What if I'm still that kid who can't handle it? Jake. Lily stopped and turned to him, her hands on his shoulders. Listen to me. It's okay to feel scared. But don't let that fear stop you from pursuing what you want. Remember, it's about the journey, right? Focus on that. The passion in her voice struck a chord in him, the flicker of belief igniting. Perhaps it wasn't just about tomorrow's performance, maybe it was about living authentically. As they continued their walk, the warmth of determination began to curl around his heart. Determination. There was something about that word that made striking out into the unknown feel less daunting. Suddenly, Lily pointed to a tall building across the street. Hey! Let us go up there. I've always wanted to see the view from the top. Jake frowned, his stomach knotted with a mix of fear and excitement. It's pretty high up, what if come on. What better way to face your fears than with a little adventure? Before he could overthink, Jake found himself following her across the street, the thrill of spontaneity overtaking him. As they entered the building, he felt an odd mix of dread and hope. The elevator felt like it took forever, each passing floor adding to his heartbeat's tempo. When they stepped out onto the rooftop, the sight before him took his breath away. The town sprawled beneath them, glittering softly like a field of stars. This is amazing! Lily exclaimed, leaning against the railing, her hair dancing in the wind. Jake stepped closer, absorbing the beauty of the view. It was a moment that felt infinitely bigger than him, a reminder that there was a world waiting. Jake, Lily said, her voice soft yet firm, do you see how vast it is? Just like your potential. You've got so much to offer. The reality of her words struck him like a drumbeat. Up here, above everything he feared, he felt the urge to break free. Tomorrow wasn't just a performance. It was a chance to step into the light he'd always wanted. But beneath that, doubts lurked. As the cool breeze swept over him, Jake thought of Ricky's message, echoing in his mind. What if the shadows still held ground? Jake turned to Lily, and... Before he could speak, she looked at him expectantly. Are you ready to embrace whatever comes tomorrow? His heart raced, and he wasn't sure of the answer. Maybe, he finally said, uncertainty still swirling within him. Maybe isn't good enough, she replied, voice steady. Her challenge hung in the air like fireworks, igniting something deep inside him. What if he chose to believe? What if, instead of fearing failure, he faced tomorrow with courage? With that thought lurking in his heart, Jake leaned against the railing, hoping that when the sun rose, he'd find the strength he needed to take the first step. But as he stood there, the air filled with possibility, a part of him knew this was just the beginning of a much larger battle. Tomorrow isn't it? He whispered, filled with both fear and fervor, but would he rise, or would he fall again? The answer lay just out of reach. The sun peeked over the horizon, spilling golden light across the town like hope pouring into a weary heart. Jake stood in his garage, the familiar scent of sawdust filling the air. Today was the day he'd unveil himself not just to the world but to the man he had become. The weight of his past simmered beneath his skin, yet for the first time, it felt like something he could own, rather than something that owned him. He looked at the rocking chair he'd crafted, its polished surface gleaming under the morning light. This wasn't just wood, it was a symbol of his journey, his transformation. He could almost hear Lily's encouragement echoing in his mind. Just be you. Determined, Jake gathered his portfolio, bundling together all his hard work and dreams. Each handmade piece represented hours of toil, uncertainty, and a commitment to something larger than himself. He could feel the anticipation buzzing in the air as he practiced his pitch one last time, knowing that today he had to fight for himself and all he held dear. Let's do this, he whispered to himself. The venue was filled with a blend of excitement and nerves, the energy swirling like the bustling streets outside. As Jake stepped onto the stage, the spotlight warmed his face. The nervous knot in his stomach dissolved a bit, and he recalled Lily's words, "Tomorrow is a chance." He took a breath and spoke from the heart. "Hello, everyone. I'm Jake. My journey started in a garage, where I found purpose in wood and heart in creation. Today, I'm not just here to showcase furniture, I'm here to share stories that impact lives because that's what every piece should do." As he shared his passion, he saw the judges leaning in, nodding in understanding. He spoke of families, of dreams, of resilience. Each word was crafted like his wooden masterpieces, full of care and intention. The shadows of doubt flickered in his mind, but he drove them away with memories of the support he'd received, the community that had rallied behind him. When he finished, the room erupted into a sea of applause, the echo bouncing off the walls like a burst of joy. Jake's heart soared, a mix of exhilaration and disbelief coursing through him. This was everything he had fought for. After the judges deliberated, Jake waited in anxious anticipation, surrounded by friends and supporters. When the announcer revealed the results, Jake couldn't believe it. He barely registered the name being called as his heart raced, but this time, there was no Ricky to shadow his moment. "Jake!" The cry rang out clear, and the room burst into cheers, lifting him from the ground. This wasn't just a win, it was a declaration. He felt Lily's arms wrap around him, her joy washing over him like a wave of warmth. The weight of the trophy in his hands felt like a trophy not just of victory, but of every struggle they had faced together. "You did it!" she exclaimed, her admiration shining through her tears. "Yes. We did it," he replied, realizing at that moment how far they had come, how much they had overcome together. Receiving the grant felt surreal, like a key unlocking doors to new possibilities. As he strolled through the crowd, he caught snippets of conversation celebrating the community spirit. People recognized that his journey wasn't just his own, he had brought them all along, woven tightly into the fabric of his success. But even in that moment of joy, those last words from Ricky echoed faintly in his mind, "You can't maintain this." Yet as he replayed the scene in his head, he brushed them aside. This wasn't just a fluke. The love, the support, the hard work, they were real things that carried weight. As the day wound down, Jake sat with Lily on the steps outside the venue, the golden hour light wrapping around them comfortably. "Today was amazing," he said, his heart full. "But tomorrow?" "Tomorrow is a blank canvas," Lily replied, looking at him with that fierce spirit he admired. "Now it's time to build something bigger, something that matters." Jake grinned widely. He knew the path wasn't easy. There would still be challenges, still be moments of doubt, but he had a community behind him, a purpose within him. He could see it clearly now. The shadows were there, but they were nothing compared to the light of possibility. "Let us build that dream," he said as they looked out over the town, the horizon bursting with potential. Jake stood, hand in hand with Lily, ready to step into the future. They had work to do, and together, they would create a legacy that felt like home. Together, they walked toward tomorrow, their hearts intertwined with hope, embodying the truth that resilience could carve out beauty even from the rawest beginnings. And so, the journey continued, led by courage, fired by dreams, and united in an unyielding love. Now, it's your turn to step into your journey. If you loved this transformation, you need to subscribe immediately. Don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it makes a real difference. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending, and share instantly with 5 friends who need a boost of inspiration. This is the moment to show your support. Join us in this journey. Don't wait not even one more second.